Hello, welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Brennan. If you're following along with us, we're in the middle of our skirt series. We're actually nearing the end of it. If you haven't already, make sure you go to shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com and download your pattern. You can follow along with us. In this video, we are actually going to take the prepped waistband pieces that we did in the previous video, and we're going to attach it to the back and the front panels of the skirt. So let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is something I actually should have done in the previous video. I'm just going to press the back waistband so that it's flat, and then I'm also pressing it long ways, just like the front one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back panel of the skirt and the back waistband, and I'm going to line up the top of the skirt with the raw edges of the waistband. And I am going to go ahead and pin this. Now this should be pretty close when you line it up. It might seem like it's a little tiny bit off just because we are sewing a straight line to a curve, but you're not going to have to worry about a whole lot of ease. It should fit together quite easily. What I like to do is first pin where the side is going to go. Well, both sides, plural. And then I'll hold it up and just very gently tug it. Not a whole lot, just to make sure everything fits, and then pin the middle. Now in this case, the pattern on the fabric is matching really, really well, and it's because of how we cut everything on the fold. That's not always going to happen. It is kind of a happy mistake when we do, because that always looks fun. And then also just kind of gently tug where the fabric is. And you don't need to pin a whole lot. I'm probably pinning roughly every 4 to 5 inches or so. The biggest ones you want are the ones that are going to be along the side seams and then in the middle. And then I'm also putting 2 in between the middle and the side seam pins. All right, so when it's all pinned, it's going to look like this. You have all of your raw edges lined up. The waistband is not going to lay flat, but that's okay. It's because of the curve that we have of the skirt attaching to the flat waistband. Now, very important to note about the seam allowance here. Everywhere else in the skirt, the finished seam allowance is going to be 5/8 of an inch. Here, it's only going to be a 1/2 inch, maybe even a little bit shy of a 1/2 inch, because our elastic is 1 inch wide. So we need to make sure that we leave at least 1 inch of a gap, maybe even just a little tiny bit more, so that we can fit that elastic in and it's nice and snug. Now I like to sew with the bigger piece of fabric on the bottom of the machine, but you can sew with the bigger piece on the top. It doesn't matter. It's whatever is most comfortable for you. Because we are working with a curve and a straight seam, just give it a very, very gentle tug, and you'll see everything flatten out, and just let the machine do its thing. All right, so I just realized that I did not backstitch at the beginning of the skirt, so I'm just going to go back and do that real quick. All right, so now that we have the waistband attached, I'm gonna go and just press the seam down towards the hem. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to insert our elastic into the casing that we just made on the waistband. Now, if you watched our last segment about the pull-on skirt, you saw me do basically the same thing, only all the way around the waistband. So I am just getting a safety pin, and I'm going to use that safety pin to pull the elastic all the way through. Now I'm going to watch it, because as I get close to the end, I'm going to pin this end of the elastic to this end of the waistband, because I don't want that to pull all the way through, because that would be a pain. Not the end of the world. You can definitely get it back out, but if you don't have to do that, it's best not to. All right, so I've got the elastic in the tube. I lined the raw edges up here, and I pinned it in place. So now I'm going to pull the elastic the rest of the way through the skirt. once it's pulled all the way through, just do the same thing, line the raw edges up and pin it in place. And you might actually want to go like an inch, inch and a half inside, because we are going to basically put a basting stitch here to hold it in place until we're ready to sew the side seams together. All right, now you've got your elastic all the way through. Give it a little stretch. And you can see here, you have your gathers. They look nice. Let's do the front waistband now. All right, so pinning this in place, very, very similar process. We're just going to take the raw edges of the waistband and line it up to the skirt. Now with this one, since we have the darts, the lengths might be a little bit different. So just kind of do the same thing. Now again, just like the back part of the skirt, we're going to sew a 1/2 inch of seam allowance instead of 5/8 of an inch. So make sure you watch that. And I forgot to back stitch it again, so I'm going to go back and do that. All right, and same thing as before, we are going to press that seam allowance facing down. All right, so to baste the elastic inside the seam allowance, what you want to do is just go back and forth at least once, if not a couple times, just so it's nice and strong, as close to the edge, or to that raw edge as you possibly can. And that's just going to hold the elastic in place until we can sew it all together and finish it. Once you've basted your elastic in place, it might be a good idea to go ahead and keep those safety pins in just for now, so we can keep those gathers out of the way when we sew the side seams together in the next video. All right, so that's it for this video. We sewed the waistband onto the front and the side panels. We also put the elastic in. In the next video, we're going to sew the side seams together with the French seam. Now, you've watched me do this before, and if you watched our last segment, don't be afraid of the French seam. It's super easy. It's a bunch of straight seams, so we'll walk you through it step by step. So if you haven't already, make sure you go to shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com, download your pattern, and I will see you in the next video. Happy quilting and happy garment sewing.